Imagine, it only took a global pandemic for me to actually make more videos, so I guess here we are. Your turn, Yugi boy. So we have Toons. Obviously, Toons have been the focus of a lot of discussion recently. Obviously in my previous video that was only released like 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm making another one right now. How about that? The world is truly ending. Obviously I wasn't very happy with the Toons and the support, and when I say I wasn't happy with basically how it's been presented and how it's been done. The cards in themselves are not terrible. Obviously there's some really good ones in there, mainly being these two, Bookmark and Turn Page. But, you know, majority of everything else is kind of just like, yeah, cool. It can be used, but there's setup needed and so on and so forth, as with any deck, I guess you can say. So today I thought I would talk about Toons. So let's talk about Toons. So in the video, I'm not going to give any deck lists because I'm still trying to figure that out myself, but talking about the concepts that the deck can kind of go in, different ways that you can build the deck, different options that are available to deck builders for Toons. Now I do just want to state and add a little disclaimer there. This is basically obviously my opinion on different ways that the deck can be built. There are of course always going to be other ways, and I think that, you know, you need to just give me a bit of rope in the fact that I've been out of the game for quite a long time. So there may be some cards I missed, there may be some things that I say that actually don't make sense anymore because of it's just aged. But I've been doing some research and looking at some different kind of content creators and getting some of their ideas, as well as doing my own research into it. So yeah, so basically everything you see here on the screen is kind of cards that I think in some way, shape or form need to be spoken about. Just because a card isn't here doesn't mean that it might not necessarily need to be spoken about, but there's probably some things that just shouldn't be considered at all. Like unfortunately the two vanillas, the Parrot Dragon, obviously not a Toon technically, but still, and Toon Alligator are not really cards that you should be considering. The only way you would consider a Toon Alligator build is if you want to really focus on kind of a rank 4 engine. So if you go with Toon Alligator, and also as I've got it down here, Toon Alligator with the Rescue Rabbit, it means that you have access to Bahamut Shark and also Totally Awesome. So they kind of would go along with the Toon Mermaid. So that's kind of like a little deck in itself, but I actually don't think it's enough to really build anything on. It's kind of like a nice to have maybe, but you really do need to invest a lot into that build. 3 Rescue Rabbit, 3 Toon Alligator, probably need to go for the 3 Toon Mermaid as well. But you only have access to 1 Totally Awesome. If Totally Awesome was at 3, I'd say maybe that might be a viable little like kind of mini engine that can go with it. But personally, I don't think that's really viable how I see the deck currently. So let's look at one of the new cards, the Toon Blackluster Soldier. Toon Blackluster Soldier has obviously has a decent effect, let's say, in the fact that it can banish a card on the field. It's a shame that it targets. If it didn't target, it would be a lot better, but you know, we can't really have too much more, can we? It can be special summoned by tributing Toons from your hand and or field whose levels are equal to 8 or more. Very annoying that it doesn't say and or, so it's from one or the other. So another really annoying restriction there, unless that translation's wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it is. It's by tributing monsters from your hand or field. So if we look at the level 8 monsters that are just like a straight tribute for it, you've got the Toon Blue Eyes, but then you've also got Toon Ancient Gear Golem. Toon Ancient Gear Golem, in my opinion, is just pointless and you should never use it. It's not good enough, honestly. The Toon Blue Eyes is something you might consider, but the problem with Toon Blue Eyes is that it doesn't do anything. It has old restrictions on it still, being obviously a very old card. Metal Raiders, I think it was, or something like that. It's a very old card, and the only use that it might be for is if you want to put a slight Toon, like a dragon build in there maybe, with like things like trade-in. But I don't think it's good enough for the Toon Blackluster Soldier. I think its restriction on being able to summon itself, or the way that you summon itself natively in the card, is not something you're actually going to be doing a lot, and it's not something you really want to focus on, in my opinion. The things that you probably want to focus on and how to summon him is basically Toon Dark Magician and also the Toon Red Eyes. They're the main ways that you're going to be special summoning this guy if you do have him in the deck, because obviously Toon Dark Magician allows you to special summon a monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is really good. You just bring out a big beater and you can still attack that turn, so that's really great, or activate his effect. And then also Toon Red Eyes, where the fact you can special summon a monster from your hand. So a lot of the time you'll go, if you can get Red Eyes out, you go Red Eyes, and then you go then you go Dark Magician, and then you go Blacklisted Soldier. So obviously that's quite good. The upside to playing a Red Eyes, for example, is if we look down here, what a lot of common builds used to do when Red Eyes was originally out. You would run the Blackstoner Legend. It's a free summon for it, and you know it allows the deck to tutor out things much quicker, and it speeds it up a little bit. So kind of honestly, these three right here are probably going to be the main Toon cards that you'll be running, or that you'll be seeing in a lot of different decks. Now obviously there's inherent problems with these, and the fact that they're all tribute summonable monsters pretty much, and only one of them you can special summon, which is obviously Toon Blacklisted Soldier. There are other cards that you can use, but then it does depend on the type of build you are running. The ones to note is if you are going down, you can go down, for example, like a Dark Magician Spellcaster route. There's a couple of ways you can do it. Obviously, you have the Toon Dark Magician. It's not really that much of a great card, but it can use synergy with other of the Dark Magician cards that are out there, like Magician's Soul and all the trap cards that special summon them. You can also, if you're using like Magician's Soul, you can go down the Prophecy route as well by using Blue Boy, and then also like Secrets and Eternity, well not Eternity, but you know, all the other Spellcaster Prophecy cards, Spellbook, with just kind of, you know, everything that's available to you. You can run like 2 Secrets and 2 Master, or you know, something like that. There's a couple of different things, and obviously then you do have the inbuilt protection of having like Spellbook of Wisdom that can help with protecting some of your Toons, but the idea is that your Toons are going to be protected by Toon Kingdom anyway. So that's one type of build that you can do. So far you've got a just kind of like a standard build with that. You've got a Dark Magician build, more focused on the spellcasters with the prophecies. And also Dark Magician Veil is actually a pretty good card, in my opinion, that could be used for it, because it's 1,000 life points to basically special summon this bad boy. So that's actually pretty good. It can be luck if you want to really use that one on its own, but the idea is that it might start to clog a bit. You don't want to run too many things that clog this deck. One of my old favourites was running Toon Cyber Dragon, mainly because Toon Cyber Dragon gave you access to Toon, my god, I wish it was a 2, to Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is obviously a very good card. Has it been power creeped now? I don't know, probably. It's still a really great card though, but you know, kaijus are a thing. Toon Gemini Elf, obviously great for pitching cards out your opponent's hand. It's a normal summonable card. Attacks directly, 1/9, pretty decent. Can, you know, be used if you want with the spellcaster build. It's probably fallen back a little bit in its use, because there are, you know, it's probably been overtaken by like the Harpy and still up there with Toon Mass Sorcerer. So it's an interesting card, probably only being used in a spellcaster build. Other than that, outside of like anything else, I don't really see much point of running it right now. Obviously, I spoke about Toon Mermaid. Great card if you want to be able to just get some quick summons off. The fact it can special summon itself, it has the synergy with the Bahamut Shark into the Totally Awesome, and just in general rank 4 plays. But in my opinion, it's not as strong as people might think. I've always had a bit of a weird problem with Toon Mermaid. The fact that, yeah, great, it's just a special summon, but that's it. It's nothing better than that. One of the new, I was going to say boys, but one of the new girls is the Toon Harpy Lady. So Toon Harpy Lady has that hard effect of it can't attack the turn it's summoned. I don't see why they've put that in there. Honestly, the fact that they put Blacklisted Soldier with not that effect, but then they want to put Toon Harpy Lady with it, just because you can special summon it. It's a 1/3, guys, like, calm down. Has obviously a very good effect in the fact that it pops back row if it's got another Toon on the field or when it's special summoned. That's great. It also has other synergy in the fact that you can go into Lightning Chidori. You have access to the Harpy Lady Synchro as well, because the Harpy Lady Synchro's effect says that, you know, you can treat a Harpy you control as a tuner. Bam, there you go. Obviously, you're going to need to run another level 4, but you have a couple of them there. As I said, that's the only restriction, isn't it? Yeah, 1 non-tuner. So that is kind of good in its sense, in itself. It's nice because it's a special summon. It's some presence on the field. It meets requirements that you can activate some of your support cards. But it's if it said it could attack directly, it might be a much better card just because you do have a bit of the flexibility. But honestly, it's one of those cards, in my opinion, where it's good, but it's not great. It's really not great. And it's only going to be put in decks because there are no other better options and you're basically filling out the deck a little bit. It does have other plays and it does have other supports. You know, you can use your Harpy's Featherstorm and you can start bringing in other aspects of a deck, the Harpy deck and wind card support. But that's where this deck really has a problem. The fact that you're starting to cram other archetypes into it and it can get very muddled very quickly and lose its identity. Toon Mass Sorcerer is honestly one of the best advantage cards for the deck, in my opinion. It allows you to just get free pluses, you know, and if it's protected by Toon Kingdom, it's great. It doesn't have, much other going about it than the draw, but the draw is still really good. It obviously ties in really well with the spellcaster support, being able to summon it out easily, being able to be protected by your other and have other spellcaster cards and have synergy with it. I think that's really good. So that for the initial monster lineup is kind of where you're at. You're probably going to be seeing a lot of these being used. Mainly these three is probably what you're going to be seeing a lot, honestly. There's the framework there. It's good that they have big beaters, but the problem with the Toons is the consistency, and it always has been, because as soon as you get rid of Toon Kingdom, you're screwed. Like, you have no leg to stand on, and that's what I meant in my previous video by saying protect the castle deck. So if we just want to look at some other support cards, obviously I mentioned the support cards here, but if we look at Sangan, Witch of the Black Forest. So these two obviously were reprinted in the Toon Chaos set with all of the Toons. And at first I was a little bit confused as to why, but the idea is that, you know, you can use them, you can tribute them, you can bring these bad boys out with them and they start to tutor different bits and pieces. They search a lot of the cards here as well. They're interesting kind of normal summonable monsters. I don't really know how good that kind of is, but it's something to potentially look at. Obviously it's a dark spellcaster, mainly you want to look at Witch of the Black Forest maybe for synergy with the spellcaster deck, or the version of the deck, but it's just something I'd say that they're not instants, they're not staples at all by any stretch of the imagination, but there's some things you can consider just to tutor out some potential support and cards in your deck. And then also you've got like righty and lefty. I really like these cards just in general. I actually was really excited when these were announced in the OCG. This was a long time ago. I'm talking a very long time, because obviously they're synergy with synchros. Now, obviously, their main goal, let's face it, if you summon these, you're going into Needle Fiber, let's face it. And Needle Fiber, I was actually watching Lithium's build on it, and it was quite an interesting point to be able to have righty and lefty that goes into Crystal Fiber that then goes into Selene. It's actually a really interesting little combo that I thought is probably worth, let's say, exploring, honestly. With Selene being, because you're obviously playing a lot of spell cards in this deck, Selene being able to bring out a spellcaster monster from your hand or defense position in the graveyard means obviously you're going to be wanting to summon Toon Dark Magician. Then that enables you to tutor out other Toons, mainly these others. So there's some nice synergy there. I think it's quite good. It does need a lot of testing. Potential bricks, maybe, I don't know. Relying too heavily on Needle Fiber, maybe, I don't know. Does the deck start to lose its identity at that point when you start putting in other cards? That's been the biggest problem of Toons, in my opinion. For them to function, you need non-Toon cards for it to work. Obviously, if you're going to be using Needle Fiber, you're going to be using things like Effect Veiler. That's a very important one. That's the one thing you're going to mainly be summoning out. They'll probably be playing 3 Effect Veilers. But they're kind of the monsters that I think are useful to be able to know about and understand and consider. So going into the spells, there's obviously a lot of spells for this deck. There are a lot of spells in general for Toons. like this entire row here, bar 1, is Toon cards that you might want to consider. Toon Kingdom is a staple at 3. We're not going to talk about that because it's really obvious. If you are considering not having Toon Kingdom at 3, you're not playing the deck right. It's the main win condition of the deck, and the only way the deck can function. The other one is Toon World. Toon World is a thing, but honestly, it's one of the biggest bricks and negs. It's just not. It doesn't have a place in the deck. Usually, sometimes you would have a one-off Toon World, just to give you access so the deck can function. I don't think that's valid anymore because you do have more support cards now that can shoot it out. Toon Kingdom, you have one of the terraformings. You then have a Toon Table of Contents bookmark. So honestly, you're probably going to be able to get there to it. So honestly, I'll just remove that because it's just much easier. Some interesting cards I think that we want to talk about is Shadow Toon and Toon Rollback. Shadow Toon basically, when you have a Toon World on your side of the field, you target face a monster your opponent controls and then inflict damage equal to their attack. It's a really, really dangerous card at times, especially if you're up against something that's quite powerful. It's just a nice little way to inflict some damage. Now, is it a staple? No, I don't think. I think it's a nice tech card. So that's one thing to definitely consider and to keep an eye out for. The good thing is you can tutor it out, so being able to have maybe a one-off and have it flexible is quite good. Toon Rollback as well is another really, really big card that is a bit of a sleeper, honestly, and no one's really talking about it in my opinion. I really like this card. Being able to just attack twice with a Toon monster is pretty good, and now that you have a Blacklisted Soldier that can attack at the same turn it's summoned, that's 3,000 damage if your opponent can't stop it. It's pretty good. So these two support cards are really interesting and something that I think people should pay attention to and also just consider for their builds. Mimicat is one card that I still have a problem with. The requirement is that you have a Toon World and a Toon monster on your side of the field, and then you can target an opponent's monster in the graveyard, special summon it, or a spell and trap card they have in the graveyard. It's on paper a weird card because it has two very specific restrictions. Now, can this card be used more consistently now you have things like Toon Bookmark and also with Turn Page and the fact that you can summon out a monster so you fulfill the requirements? Maybe. I don't think so. I think it's too much of a brick because this is one of the most biggest definition of dead draws if you don't have its requirements on the field. So I think it's, if you really want, put it as a 1. You can use it as a set. When you've got all your setup, you can use it as a card to kind of surprise your opponent. But honestly, I don't think it's really that much of a good card right now. I might be wrong, but I can't see it being used in the original way that it kind of was going to be. These next 3 cards are all 3 ofs. You play 3 of them. They are some of the best tutoring cards for the deck, or the best tutoring cards for the deck. Play them. Don't mess about with ratios. Play them. Searches your entire deck. Searches your entire... Oh, bar 1. Searches your entire deck and shooters out big monsters. With Toon Turn Page, you're basically going to go, okay, Toon Turn Page, and I'm going to select these 3. I'm going to select one of these 3. Any outcome is good. You get Blacklisted Soldier, oh, okay, you have a big beta. You get Dark Magician, oh, okay, cool. You can then special summon out the Red Eyes. Oh, then you can special summon Blacklisted Soldier. There's a lot of good ways that you can use this card. The good thing as well is the fact that if you do bring out the Dark Magician, if it is selected, it means you can bring out the Red Eyes, and then you have a rank 7 play as well, which I've put down here with the Big Eye and obviously Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. So they're good cards. Comic Hand, aka Snatch Steal. Very, 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 very good card, and the restrictions on it are just easy. If you control Toon World, so you've got Toon Kingdom. Very good card. Why? Because it not only takes your opponent's monster, turns it into a Toon, which then protects it under Toon Kingdom. So, and then you can attack directly. Really good. So that is a really important card, and one that you can probably play 2 of. I think 3 might brick. 1's probably not enough considering how powerful it is. But because you can search it out in, like properly now with Toon Bookmark, because it does say Toon World in its name, or in its description, sorry, it makes it a really powerful card. So I really consider playing that. It's probably 2 is a perfect amount in my opinion. Then we go into the draw cards. So we've got Pot of Extravagance and also Pot of Desires. The extra deck in this build, or in these builds, are not that important. There are obviously some good cards that you want to be able to have access to, and if you're going for the righty-lefty, obviously you're going to have Needle Fiber, but you're probably going to play 3 Needle Fiber in that sense anyway, if you can afford it. Part of Extravagance is probably going to be one of the main draw cards that you play in the deck. Very handy that it is being reprinted in this set. It's probably still going to be fairly expensive, but I digress. It's a very useful thing, and being able to put it aside the deck and utilize it is something very important. So I would say you play 3 Pot of Extravagance if you want to, try and keep the speed of the deck up quite a lot. Pot of Desires as well is another one that you can use, but there is obviously a big restriction on this. The fact that obviously you're banishing a lot of cards. If you banish 3 Toon Kingdom from this, which is not unheard of, banishing 3 copies, you're going to have a very bad day and you basically instantly lose. So Pot of Desires might be a backup draw card, but I don't think it's the main focus of where drawing should be. Pot of Extravagance is probably where you want to be looking at for the draw power of the deck. And then going on to some of the traps. Now, obviously down here I've put Solemn Judgment. That's because I'm comparing it with Toontara. Toontara, like Mimicat, has 2 restrictions on it. The fact that you need to control a Toon world and a Toon monster. That's too harsh in my opinion. It just didn't need to be that. If it said you control a Toon monster, or the requirement is you control a Toon monster, or the other requirement was you have a Toon world on your side of the field, it's playable, and then it's actually really good. Is it too good? No, I don't think so. Toons aren't going to be broken if that has only 1 restriction instead of 2, or requirement instead of 2. Toontara is honestly not as good as people might think it is at this moment in time. Maybe a one-off because you can search it, it's a searchable counter trap. But honestly, the reason why I've got Solemn Judgment down here is because Solemn Judgment is just probably better in every way, shape or form. And the fact that Toontara exists alongside Toon Briefcase, and obviously Toon Briefcase I think is one of the best support cards for the Toons, because it shuffles your opponent's monster back into the deck. It's pretty ridiculous in my opinion. When your opponent summons a monster, or including multiple monsters, this is back in the Pendulum days where you'd just be like, bah. All you need to do is control the Toon. You don't even need to have Toon World. And you shuffle all those monsters back into the deck. That is super, super strong and super powerful in my opinion. I used to run 3 of this in my previous builds. I think I might have brought it down to 2 at one point, but 3 is so strong because it means you can control the board. And let's face it, Toons are very much a control-based deck. When you have cards like Toon Briefcase, when you have Comic Hand, they are control cards and a control deck as well. And it's something that kind of does line up nicely, but you also do have a lot of explosive power sometimes and potentially with these 3 cards right here. The last one is Toon Mass. Toon Mass, basically, if you control the Toon, you target face a monster your opponent controls, special summon a Toon monster from your hand or deck whose level is equal to or less that or the rank of the monster. So it's probably not going to be able to summon out a lot of these depending on what you actually are targeting. Obviously this has been crept with the fact that it doesn't include links. You're probably not going to be able to select a link anyway, but never mind. You're probably only really going to be summoning out these, honestly. You're not going to be looking at anything other than that. And I think it's probably a card that really shouldn't be used. It's something you can look into, and meta depending, whatever's out there, you could look into it, but honestly Toon Mask is probably just a bit too slow. And I don't think it's actually going to be a very useful card for the deck. So, Toons. That's basically the discussion, in my opinion, of Toons. I think that there is something there, but it's going to take a lot of finding, and it's going to essentially not be... it's not going to be pure Toons, let's face it, because that just can't run. I think there's going to have to be some engines in there that help try and patch up the problems of the Toons. The problem with relying on some of the older cards is that they are still inherently slow and outdated and power crept beyond belief. And I think that as much as I want to play Gemini Elf, and as much as I want to play like Toon Cyber Dragon, I think these are just completely obsolete, honestly. Maybe a one-off, as I said earlier, with Toon Gemini Elf for the Spellcaster build. But there's just a lot of cards that aren't really usable anymore. Toon Blue Eyes, honestly, if you want me to whittle down like here important staple cards, I'm gonna cut them out now for you, because I think that this is basically where we're at with the deck and how it looks. I think these are probably the only cards you really want to be considering right now. You know, like a one-off, I've put you here. Another one-off's like down here. They're probably the only cards that you're going to be really considering main decked right here from the archetype. Apart from the draw card, but we'll put part of extravagance there. These are probably the cards you're going to be seeing the most, and these are the ones that you should be without a doubt considering and using, because this is the heart and soul of the deck, including the support. You'll be playing all of them. The three ofs is going to be this, 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 this. And they're the only three ofs in any build, in my opinion, probably. The monsters are kind of up to you depending on the way that you want to do it. Toons, honestly, the outlook is interesting. It's not a meta deck. It's probably a tier 3 deck at this moment in time. Where the deck will go from here, probably not very far. Probably a really great locals deck. If I get it to kind of like a nice consistent build, and if tournaments ever happen again, I probably would, for a laugh, go and play Toons at a tournament just to see how it goes. But you know, it's probably going to be a very bad time for me. So what do you think of Toons? A lot of people were thinking and kind of on the same lines as me with the booster box and the fact it's just not a Toon thing. It's just got some Toon cards thrown in. It's not a Toon support deck set at all. It focuses on way too many things. But, you know, we've gone past that now. That's that. This is Toons. This is what we've got to work with. It doesn't look like we're going to be getting support for a very long time. Any other additional cards, new cards, let's say. I know there's the reprint set coming out in a couple of weeks, but, you know, this is where we're at with Toons. So let me know what your opinion is down in the comment section below. I know a lot of people will probably have questions as to where I have been. I am going to make a video on basically my opinions of, well, what's been going on in the past 2 years with me, and also kind of a potential future for me back on the creation platform that is YouTube. And just Yu-Gi-Oh in general, but I didn't want to put that out too early. I wanted to do a few videos first to see if I maybe could potentially do this again. I don't know, but we'll see, just taking day by day. So that's it, guys. Toons are apparently a thing, but a very, very, very low thing, but I think it's enough for me to enjoy playing with them.